And thank you for listening to our podcast called Life. Thank you for listening.
But I do have a few mysteries here. Since you were of course, a professional copper, let's see if you can solve these cases. Now, I'm going to have three of them on the second half of the show, and the first one's called the deadliest mix. Now, there's going to be, I believe, three or four clues. Pay careful attention to the words, and listeners at home, see if you can solve it before Mason. I'll read it here aloud. It's about a page and a half. What happened here? Detective Rachel Hunter asked, scanning the living room. Her eyes went first to the corpse slumped on the couch, then to the two half-empty tumblers of what looked like cola that sat on the coffee table. The dead guy is Charles Beaufort, her partner, Jason said. He nodded towards the dining room, where two paramedics attended to another man. That's his business partner, Aaron White. White came over tonight to talk shop with Belfer. He says Belfer suddenly keeled over while sitting there. The paramedics say he's showing all the signs of having been poisoned. No one else was home. Belford's wife left a few hours ago for Florida. Her husband was supposed to meet her there for Thanksgiving. Someone will call her when the plane lands. Rachel nodded thoughtfully and headed to the dining room. Can you tell us what happened tonight, Mr. White? Well, the business isn't going great. We're in real estate. You know how it is, he began, clearly shaken. Chuck and I have been at odds over how to fix things, so I came over about an hour ago for a meeting. I was hoping to persuade him to see my side of things, but I guess it doesn't matter now. Did the two of you eat or drink anything? I made us a couple of rum and cokes. You mix the drinks? Rachel asked. Yeah, White said. I like mine a certain way, and wait, what are you implying? His face hardened. I will not say one more word until I see my lawyer. Jason's phone rang. He answered it, listened for a moment, then tapped Rachel on the shoulder. Miss Beaufort. Rachel took the phone. Charlie's dead? Miss Beaufort wailed. What? How? What happened? We're trying to figure that out, ma'am, Rachel said. What time did you leave the apartment? It would have been about 4 hours ago. When I took a taxi to the airport, Miss Belfort said. Charlie would have driven me, but Aaron was coming over to talk business, and Charlie was worried he wouldn't be back in time. Aaron, that weasel's been trying to muscle Charlie out of the business for years. Do you think he has something to do with it? Rachel took a breath. This question is routine, but I have to ask. Are you the sole beneficiary in your husband's will? Miss Belfort's breath caught, and she said, Yes, I am. Though money is the farthest thing from my mind right now. I know, Miss Belfort, Rachel disconnected. Then she and Jason went to the living room. The way I see it, Jason says, Mr. White's poisoned Belfort's drink, thinking his death would pass as a heart attack. With Belfort dead, White takes over the business. Boom. What about the wife? Rachel remarks. Seems like she's coming into some cash. How could she have done it? She's miles away. And if she poisoned the rum or coke before she left, then White would have been dead as well as Belfort. Rachel narrowed her eyes, two drinks on the coffee table, noticing drops of condensation sliding off one of the glasses. I do have a question for Aaron White, but it was Mara Belfort who poisoned her husband's drink, and I know how she did it. So, Mason, do you know how she did it? Do you have any guesses? What are your thoughts? So, two people are the suspects, Mr. White, Mr. Belfort. The detective thinks it is Mrs. Belfort. Okay? They were both drinking whiskey, they were talking business. How could he have been poisoned?
I think they were in on it together.
They were in on it together. Okay, but that doesn't explain how they were poisoned. Or how he was poisoned. How the guy who died was poisoned.
Yeah, the wife left enough time for an alibi.
Okay.
And clearly the other one got super defensive. He wanted a lawyer immediately.
Yeah.
I would also look at where the business holdings are to see where he stands to gain the business.
Sure.
With that, also want to know how their marriage is going.
Yeah.
That all plays into it because also looking at it, the second that she even implied that The business partner was guilty. He got insanely defensive right away, lawyered up. Usually that's a sign of guilt.
It is your right, though.
It is your right, but a lot of the times people talk. People like
People
to talk.
talk.
People will incriminate themselves on accident because they like to talk. I shit you not. But the second it got brought up, it was instant lawyer. He got visibly defensive and said that he tensed up. There was condensation. He said he poured both drinks, so that doesn't make sense. Flip side of it, she could have poisoned the ice. Poison the ice. Time takes long enough where it melts. That's why there was condensation on one, not the other. But I still think that they both had to be in on it. Otherwise, the other one would have been just as dead.
So, Mason, you are 50% right. First of all, condensation, bingo. Ice, bingo. Wow. So, yes. So, the poison was in the ice cubes. So, before he liked his rum and coke with rocks, well, White liked his drinks, remember, a certain way. He drank without ice. So, her knowing that, and the detective seeing condensation on the glass, noted that the wife filled poison in the ice bucket, in the ice, because that would give her time to get away, and he dies after she's gone. Bravo. Bravo. All right, Mason. With time constraints and all, I'll just do one more for you for the people at home. But if you get this one right again, I am definitely doing it on the next episode with Eric and see how he matches up against you. So far, though, well done. Talk about hitting the nail on the hammer. I am genuinely impressed because I think I would have just sat there and listened to it like it was a true crime podcast. And I'd have been like, you tell me, what do you mean I have to decide, you know? That was clever, and I love it. Actually, I do have a question, though, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it. So I listened to a true crime podcast the other day, and it involved a guy. Like typically they insert themselves into the investigation. So there was this guy who killed a lady, and there were all these cameras around, and he kills her anyway without them noticing. It's camera on the outside, shoves her in a wall or whatever. They don't find the body, but they thought it was him though, because he left some like DNA, and you can like time swipe cards and all that. So he was in the building, whatever. The big thing that I would like to point out is, usually like criminals insert themselves, especially their subject, into the investigation. So he literally pointed out to officers like, "Hey, I think I saw her go out during the fire alarm," and they're able to see her on video and be like, "Oh, she was here at this time. That's crazy." And then he also pointed out, "Hey, I think that's blood over there," and there's blood on the cart which he used to move the body. Like, how dumb is that? Like I think like, is it a primitive like reasoning where people think if they insert themselves they can control the investigation? Or like, what is the reasoning? Or maybe if they're helpful, they'll forget about them. I think that draws more attention on themselves, does it not?
Part of it is they're cocky. They think that they got away with it. They think it's dare I say, the perfect murder. Uh, like you said, they also want to control it. If they can control the narrative, if they can twist things and make it point to someone else, they'll do that. But also, I think of the Brooklyn Nine-Nine episode, if you remember the dentist one, where eventually he was like, oh, it's all luck. And the dude cracked because he was like, no, it wasn't luck. I planned all of this. Arrogance. You think you got away with it, you want people to know that you got away with it. People are stupid.
People are dumb. That's why people watch Cops. All right, this one's titled Smash and Grab Santa. Again, about a page and a half of a sheer wielding mystery, which Mason will probably digest in about 30 seconds. But here we go. Detective Tanya Tate stared at the computer screen as she watched Santa climb through a broken window with an empty sack and leave minutes later with a full one. In his hurry to escape, he or she bumped his forehead or her forehead on the window frame. Why did you install a security camera? Tanya asked the homeowner, Mel Smith. I've been broken into before, she said. I thought the camera would be a deterrent, but not when the culprit knows they wouldn't be recognized in the Santa suit. But how could I narrow down who might be the thief? Oh, she said, but I can narrow down who might be the thief. Who? Tanya asked, intrigued. Someone on my street, Melanie fumed. Alex at number 3 had a party last week, and everyone on the street was invited. Conversation turned into presents. I was silly enough to mention the expensive ones sitting under our tree. Obviously, someone decided to steal them. Do you know how long it took me to wrap them all in the red paper and gold ribbon? Minutes later, Tanya started interviewing neighbors. Tony Greenway from number 5 answered his door. Tonya immediately noticed the bump on his head. How did that happen? She asked. I got up in the middle of the night and walked straight into the doorframe. Can anyone verify that? My wife, he grinned. I woke her up with my cussing. Tonya wasn't surprised when his wife corroborated, his story. She checked their garbage can as she left, looking for wrapping paper. She hoped whoever stole the presents would have opened them and tossed the wrappings. Alas, Tony's only had food scraps, and not very good at that. Jennifer Peters, at number 9, was a woman in her late 40s, with long hair, straight bangs across her forehead. Stolen? Jennifer moaned. After Tonya explained the situation, how awful. Can you tell me your whereabouts at 1 a.m. this morning? In bed, where I usually am at that time. I have 3 teenage boys. They tucker me out. Can they verify that? I think Oliver is playing video games until the early hours. Surprise, surprise. He would know I was in bed all night. Another relative provided an alibi. Tonya checked Jennifer's garbage can, but there were only bottles and hair clippings. Next was Tom Billings, 30-year-old, tall, good-looking. Santa stole Melody's presents? What's this world coming to, he sighed. Where were you at 1 a.m. this morning? I see where you're going, he said, but honestly, I'd never cover up this face with a fake beard. You don't seem to be taking this seriously, Tony observed. Tom shrugged. I guess I'd feel bad if my stuff had been stolen. Still, I cringed when Melanie started showing off all about her expensive stuff under a tree. She rubbed it in, it didn't sit well. In Tom's garbage cans, she saw scrunched up blue paper, a tattered pillow, and a broken mirror. Tony smiled. The thief's Santa costume was a good disguise, but Tonya knew who stole the presents. So, who stole the presents? We have 3 suspects here. We'll step up from before. Tony Greenwell from number 9. He did hit his head, but his wife corroborated his story. Kind of weak. Jennifer, she was a woman in her late 30s, 2 teenage kids. Another relative verified her. I don't know. Teenage kids are kind of tough, especially if they're playing video games at 1 a.m. Like, I don't know about that one. And the Tony guy, he knew about a fake beard. Who said Santa had a fake beard? I don't know. And I maybe the thing.
Did she tell Tom about the Santa costume?
Yeah, they all knew it was a Santa that broke in. But I think it's interesting what was in the garbage cans, and I will replay what are in the garbage cans. I think that's important.
Do you know the answer to this?
Not at this moment. Okay. No. I have literally no idea who it is. But I'm just trying to help you out because I could have guessed one or the other on the last one, but you nailed it on the head on the hammer. So Jennifer and hers, she had bottles and hair clippings. Tony had food scraps. And in Tom's, which was kind of interesting, scrunched up blue paper, a tattered pillow, and a broken mirror. Who do you think it is, Mason? And what would be your justification, your deduction? South Dakota's Sherlock Holmes.
And what was in the first one's garbage?
So the first one's garbage, it was just food. The second one was
bottles and hair clippings.
Yep.
Was blue paper, a tattered up pillowcase, and a broken mirror.
Yes.
This was tough. The bump on the head is pretty damning because it didn't say anything about the others.
Nope.
Interesting with just the food in it.
So I just read the answer, and you really have to pay attention to all the details of Pretty much everything was a misdirection except for appearances.
Huh? You mean the garbages?
So garbages were a misdirect except
Oh,
for
yeah.
one person's. It plays a pivotal role, and the person who did it had something to do with their appearance. Is how you can discover it.
Well, then it'd be the first one with the bump out head if it's just based solely on appearance.
Okay, so it's not going to be obvious. So
Okay.
I'll give you a 50-50 chance. The first one, no.
Is not it.
He actually hit his head in the middle of the night, the same night that Santa hit his head on the doorway. The other two, though, they are a bit more contrasting and
The guy was kind of peeved about the presents,
yes.
and that would give me motive. The garbage is, like you said, already a misdirect. But if I were them, I would throw it in someone else's garbage or hide the garbage. I wouldn't put it in plain sight. I'd do a better job at that.
Yes, and now when I mean misdirect, I mean a few of them, but one garbage can actually has something useful, but it's not what you would think.
I would check the dude's pillowcase, um, determining if it's the pillowcase that was used or if the tattered one that wasn't used, check the other one, see if that's where it's at. Uh, That'd be my first go to. Also check what's in the pillowcase,
Yeah,
if it's full or not. Because again, I wouldn't be stupid enough to put the damning evidence just in the garbage. I would hide that shit.
absolutely.
So I would go with him.
You're gonna go with
Third
him?
guy. Yep.
I hate to say this, but you are incorrect.
It's the woman.
It was Jennifer Peters, the mom with her kids. So what she did was remember the hair clippings? So she cut her hair for bangs. Remember she had bangs,
Mhm.
and she covered the bump on her head. When they confronted her about it, she confessed and was taken straight to jail, and the presents were restored to their owner. So basically, yeah, they all just were like, dude, quit bragging.
Yeah.
Well, you nailed one, but the other one was pretty tough, and I can't wait.
That one wasn't easy.
I can't wait to give him to Eric and see how he stumbles. But alas, I will leave you with these bits. What is something on your mind? This is a podcast about life. So talk to me about life. Could be anything. It could be about polar bears, man. How do they live? They're so white and their shaggy hair. I would not want to mess with one.
Uh, yeah, I don't think any of the garbage that's going on in my life deserves to be on a podcast.
All right. I strongly disagree, but I definitely understand. We've been talking for a while, and you know what I say? Mysteries are what's going to save the world. So stay tuned. And you know what? Don't go time traveling, not unless you're ready to change the world. With that, thank you for listening
And
to a
thank you for
podcast
listening
called
to
Live.
our podcast called Life.